cannabis tax attorney, and my co host, Nikki Lawley, testing professional and medical marijuana health advocate. We are here tonight, as we always are, Sunday nights at 8 p.m., for the WNY report to talk about all things Western New York cannabis, um, which kind of goes all over the state as well, but we try to focus specifically on the Western New York. So, what's new in Western New York?
Well, we had a couple events this weekend. I guess technically it's not all Western New York, but there was the Cannabis Science event in Rochester, run by Brandy and Precious with EEWC, aka Bloom Rock. I
Mhm.
did not go to it. And then also we had the New York Cannabis Festival with Drink Like a Girl and her peeps. And I didn't go to that either. Why, you ask? Because Nikki has been covering the whole state with driving all over the place and she's a little bit tired. So over the weekend, she just kind of chilled out and soaked in the goodness. My family's in town from Fort Myers, Florida. Hey, mom and dad. Um, but yeah, so I've kind of been a schmuck this weekend, I guess. But
That's
um,
fair. I'm still recovering from my social media and telephone disaster, so I've actually become very difficult to reach because sorting through all the phone messages, all the phone calls, all the text messages, still over half are pretty abusive. So,
like, tell me what's going on with that. Like, you mentioned something about your social media getting hacked or something, or
well, it's not really hacked so much as you know, people want the comments on social media to be open, but then I would say now it's down to about 1 out of 8 are
ugly.
ugly. Um, and now they're just kind of like poking. They're not as ugly, although some of the phone calls and phone messages are. So I just
That's just so shitty. I just I can't believe people take their time to find you and leave nasty grams on your shit. Like, I mean, we all have the ability to see something we don't agree with and scroll on by. We
yeah.
don't got to get ugly. We don't got to get mean. We literally have the ability to choose or not choose to interact. And
Mhm.
I dare say some of these people that are, finding it very necessary to interact with you are a bit concerning. And hi, Frank. Good to see you. Well, we don't
Yeah,
really see you. We just know you're there.
we know you're there. Um, yeah, so just kind of going through that. Um, so I took a look at the docket, and there are still 11 lawsuits pending against OCM. 11.
11.
11.
Let's count that.
That's
That's
not,
five, and here's five. And then Paula, put one up. That equals 11, friends. 11
yeah.
lawsuits against OCM.
So there are still, and two of them in particular seem to deal with proximity protection, which is what you and I were talking a little bit about with Ruben. Um, One of them is still Jenny's suit. That's still pending. Um, Another one was where a guy was approved and his location got approved. And then they came back and said, oh, that was sent in error.
Just kidding.
Just
Cute,
kidding.
cute.
Um, Another one, one of the proximity approvals or proximity lawsuits is a situation where a guy um, had, I think I would have to go back and read it, but I'm pretty sure he was paying for a location. Then the injunction hit. No, he was paying for a location. They said, no, you can't have this location. So he said, please. And they said, no. He wrote another letter. That's all in the court filing. They said no, Dasney has it. So then the injunction happened. He found another less desirable location about 5 miles away, built that out, 500,000, and then somebody else is moving into the original. And he said, but wait a second.
Wow.
Why didn't you come back to me since I had indicated interest in that? And, that's a
And then
better,
you cherry picked and chose someone else. Not
yeah,
nice.
not nice. So I don't know. That one is returnable. They were in court this week, and then they are to be back in court in August. Frank has a question. Is Dasney still responsible for proximity issues? Responsible is a very big word. Um, I think Dasney still has a role in it all. I think what you may be thinking of is the loan. The loan is no longer happening. Or I shouldn't even say that. I think the loan has been called into question, but I don't know what would have happened to somebody like, let's say somebody was in the midst of their build out, and then this news hit that the Dasney loans were predatory, which is old news, but it
Yeah.
was refreshing for the state government to acknowledge it. So I don't know what would happen there. The main thing I don't know is what happens now that, like, somebody who's in these loans, can they get out of them?
Yeah.
Could there be a reduction in the amount because the the terms are onerous, the price is onerous, nobody should be paying that amount of money? There was one really interesting lawsuit
Is
against
the
the,
white man lawsuit still out there?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. I forget the name of it.
The
So that's
angry white man
the
lawsuit.
angry white man lawsuit. I mean, that's not what it's called in the court documents, but
But it's how I remember it.
there was one really interesting lawsuit by a company that was, Dasney had said they had a no bid agreement with them. So, in other words, in any kind of state project, there's normally a bid process. So, Dasney had said, no, we like you. You're going to build all of these. It was these poles, like for electrical. You're going to build these for us. The company invested $500,000. And now Dasney is saying, oh, you don't really have a contract. We're giving this work to somebody else. So they're suing.
Ouch. Yeah,
Yeah,
not cool. Not cool.
not cool. I mean, it seems like just layer upon layer of disorganization, mismanagement, and really lack of communication internally.
I've got to say, in my new employment opportunity working for the lab, communication is so vital. And I think we really take for granted what other people know. Like we think they know stuff, but they really don't. And especially when it comes to testing, it's a whole animal. And inner communication is so important for everyone to communicate, meaning, I don't care if it's on an email thread, on a Slack, on a chat, whatever, but I feel like even internally, we take for granted that our team members know what's going on, and they
Mhm.
really don't. And I think I can relate this back to the whole OCM thing. I think we have such a large organization and nobody has a real check and balance system. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges we're seeing through this whole process. Like the right hand doesn't always talk to the left hand. And as a result, we get all kinds of misinformation, not accurate information. And then when it's shared with the public, people, for instance, will share their opinions based on inaccurate information or inaccurate understanding of information, I guess is the best way of saying it.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of that going on, friends. A lot. And are you noticing finally, you know, have been whining and complaining about all the censorship on social media. Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of other people are beginning to finally notice that as well.
Hmm.
And I'm really glad others are taking notice, but I feel like if there was ever to be a lawsuit against Meta, like I'm part of it, people, like use me because I am a statistic now compared to where I was.
Hmm.
And you
Well,
know, like bigger people are starting to experience the same problems I've been experiencing. And so the censorship just has to stop around plant medicine. I'm just so sick of it. We can see hooters and hoo-hoos, but we can't, you know, talk about cannabis as medicine. I mean, like, I don't need to see some of the things I see on my Insta feed, but I do, you know, and I can't stop that. Um, but the AI thing is getting really out of control, in my opinion.
AI thing is definitely out of control, and that's across the board. And I wonder, somebody surely has done some kind of exploration of the role of AI in cannabis. I mean, I think we're going to see AI generated applications, AI generated labeling on products, AI generated advertising. Um,
Good luck with that, though. Advertising, shit. I mean, I can't even post a story about someone who had the plant save their life or a positive experience. You know what I'm saying? Like, good luck advertising, friends.
yeah,
But we're all like held hostage to Meta because there isn't another platform that is as extensive as this one, right?
yeah. I'm not a real fan of Meta, but it is sort of a necessary evil. I mean, even my younger team members for my campaign were sort of soft pedaling Meta, and then they were at events, enough events where some of the people, of a certain age, like age 50 and up, people want to see a candidate's Facebook page. And I
Right.
had one, but it was just sort of lame. And now there was a point at which they said, "Oh, I guess we really do need to beef up the Facebook page." And I said, "Thank you. I'm glad you finally heard that. I've been telling you." Um, but it is, I mean, I guess in terms of ease of use, it is the one that people default to. Um,
Yeah.
but I think as far as AI, I could see people, um, especially in the industrial side or the cultivation side, generating some false or duplicated strains and then trying to claim them as their own.
Mm,
Um, that's what I was talking about more so than the marketing. I
got
mean, I
it.
think the marketing is going to be a problem. And it's going to be a problem also with somebody trying to, show an ad with Taylor Swift using their strain when Taylor Swift never ever used their strain.
Right. Right. Good point. Good point. Um, like talking about testing. All right. So everyone knows I started working for certified testing and data in Albany. And all my cultivator friends, all my processing friends, I really could use your help in testing your products. We have come to the table with very competitive pricing, superior service, and I'm really grateful to all those friends who have used me. But what I'm really finding is there is not a lot of good flour out there, guys. Like with what we're testing and what people are saying is
Mhm.
really kind of sketchy, you know? There's a lot of products that people are trying to get around the test requirements. And for the life of me, if I found out my product wasn't safe, I would do everything I could to talk to that lab and try and get help and try and solve the problem. But instead, they're getting mad at the lab saying, "Oh, I just hate testing." And like, I can't help you with that attitude. I mean, do you care about the safety of people with your products? Um, there was a
I don't think.
post on LinkedIn about like infusing terpenes, and the high level of terpenes is not healthy to be in your lungs, but people are still doing it. And like nobody's really studied, the efficacy when you set fire to the rain. It literally isn't always a good thing, meaning, you want that great flavor and you want it to taste like bubble gum and fruity pebbles and, orange sherbet. But at the end of the day, if you're putting harmful chemicals on it, that's not safe, right?
Hmm.
And I mean, it's not all about potency. And just because a lab tests your product and, you know, as samplers, so I'm also a lab sampler. So when I go pick up a sample, I have to go into the facility, into the grow, and I have to random select both packaged and unpackaged goods based on the number of lots that they have. Like, so if it's there's a certain mathematical equation of how many random samples you have to have based on the size of the lot that they're putting towards the retail. And as I do that, like a lot of people don't want you to do that. They don't want you in the grow. Like, so it makes me think, well, are you just like testing the potency of the highest top nugs so that you get the highest THC percentage? It's not random then, guys. you know? And that's the whole point. The state has tried to create a safe efficacy kind of foundation for everyone to have equal playing field. And if one lab fails you, does it mean it's a full fail? Maybe yes, but maybe not. Like different labs test differently, and different labs have different equipment. So, the lab shopping I'm already seeing in New York State. Well, okay. But once you do a compliance test, the lab is required to not only notify you of your failed COA, let's just say, you have pesticides or microbials or something in your sample. And I share that as soon as I share that COA with you, that certificate of analysis that you want to put on your product to go to market, if it failed, I have 24 hours to send that to the state. So it's really important that if you're doing a full compliance test, like on the books, all that information literally has to be logged from the time it comes through the door. And it's like an electronic record. You can't just like make stuff go away once it's a full compliance test. If you just want to do like research and development and just, see if my stuff's going to even pass, you can do that without it being a full compliance test. There's
But
a big difference.
does that mean, like, is that company then paying for the research and development? Okay,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
So
I can't
so if you
imagine.
want a full compliance test of your sample, let's just use our list prices but all pricing is based on volume, right?
Hmm.
So using our list price of say $800 for a full panel for flour, if you want just an R&D of potency, okay, you're going to pay $150 only for an R&D of potency. But if you want an R&D of all the components that you need to pass your sample, you got to pay that full $900 or $800, and then if it fails, it gets reported to the state. But you can do an R&D without it being reported to the state. It's just a
Okay,
whole different process. Yeah.
dumb question,
No, not really.
because I've never been a cultivator. So let's say I have grown my plants.
Hmm.
I bring them to you. I pay for the R&D. What could I change if you come back to me and say, you know what, this would not pass?
Well, it depends on, you can often remediate your flour,
How can I
which
do that though? It's already grown.
you remediate it. Like you literally, they have like ozone machines that like zap the bad shit out of your flour. They have, or you turn your flour into distillate or
But isn't that
something,
taking a big hit?
huh?
Isn't that taking a big hit in the profit?
Well, potentially, yes, especially if you're planning on selling your eighth of flour retail for $50, and now you've got to turn it into distillate where that number plummets as far as the value of what
Okay.
you're doing,
So now let's say I pay let's say it's 800 bucks for the
right?
R&D, and you say, you know what, this isn't going to pass.
Mm-hmm.
But then I go to another lab
Mm-hmm.
and they pass it.
Well, there's, depends on what they're passing. Is it like higher potency they're giving you? But then what happens is you have to submit a whole different sample and put it through the whole compliance level. So there's still that chance that, I mean, in theory, yes, that R&D passed, and let's say X lab gave it, 28% potency, but we gave it, say, 24% potency. And so you're saying, oh, hell, I'm going to go test it with the other lab. But there's no guarantee that the next samples that that sampler pulls out are going to be that level of potency. So, I mean, you follow what I'm kind of saying? Like, it's not
Yeah.
just a one step process that, oh, you can test for compliance, you can test for R&D first, and then just move on to the compliance if it passes. I mean, that's not how it's done. So, there's an extra 3-day delay in getting your results minimum, in addition to the sample has to get to the lab. So if it's, a close proximity in Albany, not a big thing. But if you're in Buffalo, you basically have a day travel time, to get it to the lab. So that already puts you a day behind of trying to sell that product to your retailers.
Right. And then what about, I mean, you're using a sample is not a
Oh no, it's not a little bit. I
yeah.
need like 12 to 15 grams of flour per compliance sample. I mean, that's standard. And that's because you're doing, I want to say, 9 different panels from heavy metals to potency to terpenes. And each one of those requires a certain amount of flour that has to be tested.
Okay, so again, a dumb question.
Not really.
Um, so if I own a lab and I start giving out bad news, like you failed, and I know that the client is going to go to another lab and get a passing test. And eventually I'm going to think, this is not a sustainable business model. I've got to start passing. Who oversees or regulates the labs?
OCM.
Do they really?
Yeah, they really do. And they really take the failed labs pretty seriously. I mean, look at what happened to Jenny. I mean, she was like just a teeny bit outside of that limit or whatever. And it was for potency. It wasn't even like bad shit. It was like potency. And they made her pull her product. So, it's like there's so much to it. And it's so critically important that people understand what they're doing. I mean, I thought I understood lab testing until I started working for one. And then when you see all the work that goes into it, I mean, these aren't people that have spent like $400 on a little potency test kit.
I'm
You
telling
know,
you, I can't remember if I think it was for my birthday when I was 8 years old. I got a chemistry set, and it was so cool. And I set it up in the garage, and my older sister,
it probably wasn't for pot though. Just
she
saying.
had me stir up something. I was trying to make blue ink, um,
Nice.
and she had me stir up something, and then she picked up the spoon and it had eaten the spoon.
Wow. That's a little bit of Houston. We have a problem. Good thing you didn't put that on your, like, try and drink it, because I can only imagine what it would do to your insides. Um, but yeah, like, I mean, I know for a fact the good quality labs, they're invested 2 million plus in testing equipment. And every single day they have to have so many employees on staff to run all this specialty equipment.
Okay, more dumb questions.
I love it when you ask me dumb questions and I actually know the answer.
Because you see, I do like the paperwork side. I don't
Yes.
do the thing that you do. So some of my clients have bought these kits that are kind of like the size of a drill box, you know? Like when you buy a drill from Home Depot,
Yeah.
comes in this cool thing. I love power tools. Um, that's the thing I
I
miss.
just won't even go there. I'm just going to leave that right there, Paula.
It's the thing I miss about not being a homeowner. But anyway, um, you go to Home Depot, you get this thing that, you know, it's got your drill and the bits and the charger, and it comes in this box. And I've visited clients' locations, and they have several of these, and they say, "See, we do our own testing." Is that real?
Okay, to unpack that a little bit, there are many different test kits out there. Like, a friend of mine, Jill Carrerio, I don't know how to say her name officially, but Jill worked for Orange Photonics. They had an apparatus that was definitely a quality piece of equipment, but it only tested potency. So, so
Okay.
yeah, people can have certain pieces of equipment that will, test one portion of the process so that they know, but again, there's a huge difference between an Orange Photonics testing kit for potency compared to a full HPLC major
Right.
lab thing testing your product.
Because
I mean,
I've
it's
looked
just, it's
through the
massively different.
catalogs. I mean, I've looked online, I've looked at different stuff, and I mean, you could spend, I don't know, $1,200 for a kit, or you could spend 18,000.
Yeah, easily. That's
And
per type of test. And with New York State's test requirements, and they're different for the medical than they are for the adult use.
I gotta say, the Senecas, their testing is like they test for 5 times more than what New York tests for. It's amazing. Like the
Really.
reports that they generate and the
But
stuff
the
that they're
Senecas go through regular labs. They go through our labs. They don't have their own Seneca lab, I don't believe.
no, but some of them who are producing on a large scale level want to do their own testing first before sending it off to a lab.
Hmm. Okay.
They're just very, very diligent. Like they
Well,
want
that's
to set
cool.
themselves apart from,
I've seen
you
some
know, I
Seneca.
mean,
I've seen some tribal cannabis. I won't say Seneca because I don't know whose it came from, but um, some tribal cannabis that was literally sprayed with like blue food
right.
coloring, and then so a friend of mine who works at one of the tribal dispensaries put it in water and said, "This just can't be real," and it wasn't. The whole container turned
Right.
blue,
So
like.
so there, and this is why this particular line wanted to invest in like top-notch testing, because they really wanted to set themselves apart from all of those that were just, I mean,
Playing the
you've
game.
driven around. There are some that they literally set up in a mobile home, and then others, it's a, you know, it's a serious business. So there's quite a bit of
You know
variation.
what's crazy? You know how we test for microbials and mold and things like that. I'm hearing that some of the labs actually smell like mold. And I'm thinking, if that's in the ambient air, that can't be good for the end result of the test. I mean, again, just being a layperson here, not being a lab expert, but if the place smells mold and musty and gross, I gotta believe that's a problem. Just saying.
So, more questions. I am full of questions. I just put a big question mark on my
Yeah.
Hollywood squares here.
If I knew how to do that, I would.
The question is, when we deschedule, not when,
Okay.
and the FDA steps in, because any
Deschedule or reschedule? There's a distinct difference, as you're aware.
if even if we deschedule, I mean, the little Haribo gummies are governed by the FDA.
Right.
You know, anything that you ingest. I mean, our shampoo is the FDA has stuff to say about it, because anything that is for human consumption, the FDA has something to say about it.
Right.
So how will your lab testing change then? Does anybody know? Is that a real discussion that people are having, or no? Or is
I
that just
mean,
something that you're
I
not
don't
aware
know
of?
that it'll change immediately, but I'm sure you're going to have to be FDA certified as a lab, and you're going to have to probably be DEA certified as a lab.
Isn't that
And
a lot more expensive?
I'm assuming so for sure.
And
I
then
know our lab has been undergoing, I want to say DEA, the next schedule or something, and it's been in the queue for like a year, and we still don't have our approval yet. And again, I don't think it's because we did anything wrong. I just think there's a huge backlog.
and then ultimately all of those added expenses go on to the consumer. So now let's back up. More questions. More questions.
More questions.
You as a medical patient really, really care about what's in your product.
Really big time.
The average 20 to 40 something year old on the street, do they care?
Average? No. They don't even understand the difference between illicit cannabis and licit cannabis.
You sure that isn't liquid cannabis?
I don't know, maybe.
I'm joking.
I don't know, but they really don't.
Is it like L?
Yeah,
You see
got
what
it.
I did?
LOL, got it.
Stop.
But they really don't know the difference. So the average 20 to 40-year-old, but to those that are educated, that are in the industry, we know the difference, and it's our responsibility to teach those that don't know the difference. But when you have Meta and various social media platforms continuously censoring your content, how are those 20 to 40 somethings supposed to get that information from a reliable or educated source? It makes it exceptionally difficult to communicate those things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's BS, quite honestly, because if I didn't have the support of social media when I was starting my journey, I wouldn't be where I am today. So really, it's a problem. And, you know, the fact that some people get hit with it, others don't, some can pay for ads, and that supposedly just magically makes it okay. It's wrong. It's not cool. I mean, there's literally a dude online on Instagram called the Weed Man, and he is a paid ad, and it's like Western New York's premier delivery, and they are not legal, not even a tiny, tiny, tiny bit legal, and yet their shit's allowed on
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, like all day. And we have no idea what this dude's selling. Like, no clue. I guarantee you it's not New York State cannabis, though. Guaranteed. I mean, for sure.
Yeah.
And there's so much like knockoff packaging that people think they're buying Packwoods or one of the main names in the industry, and it's really not that at all. It's
That's,
literally
this is a
crack.
variations on a theme of arbitrary and capricious because, you know, this guy, and even when I had my phone turned off for like 3 days, and when I turned it back on, among the other things, there's this guy, I guess I got on his list probably 2 years ago when I was starting to do enforcement representation. And he sends out these, hey, we're here, and text us your order and we'll deliver it. And he had like 20 of those and just boop, 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 when I turned on the phone. Um, and he doesn't know who I am. I could be,
You could be the DEA.
could be. Um, that's a scary thought, but I could be. Um,
You
and
could be
then
Kathy Hochul.
I could be Kathy Hochul. I don't have. Um, but I do think that, so they're allowed to function, and then the weed man, and yet your stuff gets shut down. And
All the
then
time.
back to where we started. Were we online when we were talking about this? As I, now that I'm back in the city for a few days, I'm walking around and this shop has been closed, but that shop is still open. And like some of the shops that have been raided before are open and haven't gotten the padlocks. And so, and yet I'm also aware that the the hearings on these are arbitrary and capricious. I mean, I logged into one, or tried to log in, and they said, oh no, there's another lawyer on that call. And so I was like calling the client to say, did you hire somebody else? If that's okay if you did, but you got to let me know. And they said, no, we didn't hire anybody else. I don't know. We were waiting for the call. We were waiting for you to add us to the hearing. So it's all kinds of messed up. I don't know where it's all going to go.
Well, I mean, it sounds like the real estate's gone back to the rats rather than, I mean, literally the rats, like rodents.
Really, the rats, and it's scary when you walk around the neighborhood
Yeah.
because that was the good thing after COVID, was you suddenly had these garage lights that were, some of them flashing and some of them were just so brilliant, and others were normal, but you at least had shops that were open, and um, the lights were on. But now you walk down the sidewalk and you might have a succession of shops that are boarded up, and it's dark and it's scary.
I was surprised in New York City. I was blown away by the volume of shops there are, quite honestly. I mean, I had no idea. Like, I mean, people talk about it, but until you see it, you really don't grasp it. And but
Yeah,
yet, but like one's closed, two are open. One's
right.
closed, two are
Exactly.
open.
Arbitrary and
Like
capricious.
like literally, if I'm an enforcer, wouldn't it make more sense just go boom, 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 and knock
Yeah.
them all down? Like,
Yeah,
like if that's my mission,
that's
why
totally
are
what
you
I don't
fiddle
get. I
screwing
mean,
around?
go back to the Giuliani, when back when Rudy Giuliani was like a normal functioning human being, um, and he was mayor of the city of New York. He talked about going block by block with they called it the broken windows policy, and they were enforcing against anything and everything. Like if you had a broken window, we're enforcing against it. But they went block by block. They didn't skip around.
But
And
I'm saying like literally padlock business, and on each side they're selling dope.
well,
I
it'll be
mean,
interesting. I haven't gone up to my office yet. I'll go tomorrow morning, but it's kind of by Madison Square Garden, and there's on, what avenue is that? 7th Avenue at like 28th, 29th, 30th. There's an NYPD precinct right on the corner. I think it's on 29th, and there's a shop on either side of the precinct. And then it's one of those fairly large precincts where they park all of their cars there, their cars, their motorcycles, their little golf cart looking things. I guess if they still had the horses, they would park them there too. But you know, but they're all around it, and then you see the blinking pot signs, and they.
Wow.
So it'll be interesting to see
Whoever
when.
those owners are, they got cojones. I mean, they got
No kidding. Well,
some big ones.
but honestly, all of these guys will say, "Oh, no, 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 no. I before I opened, I went and I talked to the cops and I said, "Here's what I'm planning to do." Every single guy will tell me that. Every
Okay.
single.
And
It's
did
like,
they
"Yeah,
give you like a get out of jail free pass
you do
or
you
a
because what you're doing is not going to work forever." And then they say, "Oh, I'm going to do the membership model." The membership model went out 2 years ago.
yeah. There
Um,
is no membership stuff anymore.
so I don't know. I don't know. It is sad because, the pushback when I say, why don't we just allow them some type of way to exist? Because, there are so many different gradations of the argument. Like, well, we need to close these places because we need the real estate to open up the legit places. And I say,
Legit places. Okay.
look at
Yeah.
that. That's never going to pass. It's too small, or it's too close to a
A
church,
school,
whatever. Um,
the daycare center.
it's never going to pass. And yet it is doing a thriving business. So why don't we find a way to regulate it and tax it? Like, regulate who they're selling to and get the tax money, because that's never going to pass as according to all of the other regulations. So why not find a way to make that work? Oh, well, it's going to impact the licensed businesses. And I get, there was the thing this week that license sales are up by, one report said 17%, another said 25%. I'm sure they're up. I'm sure they are up. But you know what? The other thing, as I walk around the city now, maybe I've been in, DeKalb Junction, New York for too long, but where there are many, many cows, and very few people. But um, and there are some adorable pigs down the road this way, and there are some adorable emus like around the block. But
Yeah, you're the
um,
in emu land. I
emu
forgot.
land.
Yeah.
But the city is more crowded than it was before COVID, and I don't know if that's my perception. But the other thing is, like last night, I went to a Broadway show in Times Square, so that's during Saturday night tourist season. It's going to be crowded, but I got to say, I don't remember it being this crowded ever. And
Really?
when I was first in the city, I used to really, really love just pushing through a wall full of people. Like that feeling when you're just kind of being moved by the crowd. And this feels like more. But it was hot, and maybe it was just my perception. But definitely in my neighborhood, it's Pride Month, and so my neighborhood there are rainbows and unicorns everywhere and glittery things and sequins, but it feels more crowded, people just kind of milling around looking at the rainbows like they haven't seen rainbows before. I don't know.
Hey, I feel you, girl. I
But
mean,
my point is, I think sales would be up
up,
anyway
irregardless.
because there are more people. And so you can't just say, look, we closed 115 shops and now our sales are up.
Right. And like, didn't they do a guesstimate of like 2,800 illicit stores in
But
the
they guesstimated
city?
wrong.
But they
They
got
guesstimate.
115 closed, and they really think that made a huge impact on legal sales. I mean, do
And
the math, people.
I mean, anecdotally, off the record, I know this is a recording, but those sales don't go away.
No, they
You
just
might
get
have 100
transferred
shops, they get transferred. We're back to the there was a guy I
underground.
was, oh my gosh, the electric scooters, and this guy like coming down the
Oh my
sidewalk.
God.
And I'm like, there is no reason for you to be on this sidewalk. There is the street. You have a bike path. You could be there. And he was just cruising down the sidewalk with his backpack. And I thought, I wonder if you're delivering weed. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, what is in your backpack?
Dude, it's nuts. Those scooter people, those like bike people with the electric bikes, they are
Okay,
dangerous as shit.
puzzle me this. Why are we not enforcing against them?
Yeah, like how I wonder how many accidents they cause. Truly, like not
I want
maybe
to know
where
how many
they're
heart
involved
attacks they
directly,
cause.
like not where they're involved directly, but maybe they cut a car off and then that car smashes into another car. I mean, maybe they don't get hit, but how many accidents do they really cause? I mean, I'm all for efficient travel usage, right? Like
Mhm.
walking in New York City to me is absolute hell because, first of all, I don't have great balance. So many of the sidewalks are anything but smooth and easy. Not to mention the people or the pets that you have to constantly look down at to make sure you don't run them over. Um, but yeah, I mean, I like want a golf cart in New York City. Like I want, I want to have one of those that just takes me around everywhere.
Well, when I bought my car, which I bought in February, I finally got my plates, by the way. Um, when I bought my car, I really wanted a Humvee, but they're hard to get. I did see in Herkimer County, I saw a pink Humvee.
Nice.
I'm
Hummer,
sure it gets about 6 miles to the gallon. I'm sure
maybe four
that's
and a half, but yeah,
yeah, because it's the city. Let's not forget, those were the ones delivering medicine to many when legalization didn't exist. True point, Carrie. Please don't
that's
suggest we'd recreate more prohibition. Well, I, I mean, facts. I don't suspect that all of the business is just gonna go away. It's not like you put a padlock and that client base goes away, and it's not like people weren't using software or point of sale equipment to
to
track,
make it happen.
because they would, unlike the license shops, they would message people and say, "Hey, we're having specials." You know,
Yes, and I mean, if it wasn't for the patients that needed the medicine, we wouldn't, you know, have a legacy market that grew the medicine for us. And I, for one, feel that the patients and the legacy growers are left out of the important conversations. And that's been my big thing literally since I discovered the plant as medicine. And I mean, I'm one of those people that thought when I went to a medical dispensary, it was like magical unicorn weed. I thought it was like super special. I didn't understand that my kid grew the same stuff in his basement, right? Like, I mean, I really was naive and didn't understand that. And then once I found that I could like get the same stuff way cheaper and way easier from the guy down the street, I utilized that until we
of
had
course,
legalization.
of course.
Who didn't? We all had a guy. And once I discovered that the guy's stuff was cheaper and sometimes tasted better than the legal stuff that I was buying, I'm like, why am I doing that? You
Yeah.
know, literally. It's literally splitting hairs. But I didn't know what I didn't know.
Legacy is trustworthy, but the gray market is sketchy. I don't know, Frank. There are so many different gradations there, it's hard to parse.
I mean, it really is, all of it is kind of sketchy. I mean, there's so much falsification in multiple states with labs and stuff. I mean, in New York State, I'm sure there's a way to work around it, but I don't know how people cheat on it the way, based on how I understand we have to collect the samples and how we have to test the samples. I just don't know how they're going to be lab cheating. But I mean, am I naive to think everybody follows the rules? I mean, I'd like to think that, but they probably don't.
No, no. So Carrie says New York is a mess because they chose to be. Cannabis has been legal for 10 years, and it seems many of the lessons across other states were not implemented. Facts.
Saying that a little louder for those in the back.
Ego is not their amigo, that's for sure. Well, they wanted to do certain things. They wanted to champion social equity. I mean,
And social justice.
it is true that New York isn't it true New York has more black owned dispensaries than any other state in the Northeast? I think that's true.
I do think that's true,
Um,
which is good.
which is good.
That's a positive.
Um, but I also know some people of color, who, again, it's arbitrary and capricious. Why didn't that person get a license when these other people did?
There is a lot of different opinions with regard to how licenses were awarded.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not a one size fits all, that's for sure.
No.
Um, but hey, kudos to Green Philosophy 716 who got their written license. I think
Indeed.
they just have to go through their online inspection thingy, whatever that's called. You know what I'm talking about, right? The final.
There's an online and then there's an in person.
Oh, okay. So, well, they got to do one of those or
I mean,
something.
I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, but I know of somebody who got the online and they're still waiting for the,
I don't think that's going to go well.
that's not going
I
to go.
mean, they've got to fix that. You know what I'm saying? Like, not cool.
Did you know either of these people that got laid off this week from OCM?
No, never
I
heard the names ever.
I'd never heard of them. I mean, one
The
person had
the
been there since
triplet
March.
chick or triple chick,
Yeah.
didn't know who she was. She was
Yeah.
apparently the attorney for us,
Right. Never
and
heard of her.
then never heard of her. And then there was another one. I forget. But yeah, I was like, who the hell are these people? But didn't Fagan get officially let go?
I don't think so.
No?
No.
Okay.
He's just listed, whenever they talk about the people that have been let go from the agency, he's listed, but
Oh, so he's not officially gone.
no, they can't until
Oh, his
Jenny's suit
term's up.
is no, until Jenny's suit is concluded.
Oh, didn't realize that. See, that's why we have a lawyer on this show.
That's what they said initially. And I
Okay.
guess I guess it's so that he is compelled to testify. I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know that part of it.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know.
I
Hey,
mean,
we don't ever
regular
claim to have all
citizens,
the answers, friends.
no, but the regular citizens get subpoenas. So I don't understand why he would have to be kept. He is a kept man.
Hmm. Interesting.
He is, never mind. I mean, I don't know if he's being paid or not.
Got it. I don't either. I'm naive to that fact. But I mean, I gotta say, I'll be excited when Jenny's products get back on the shelves and
I really
start
miss
moving
her
again.
gummies. I miss her gummies terribly.
Yeah. Jenny's a good human, man. I
Yeah.
like her. I mean, I've always liked her. And then I got to know her better, and then I liked her even more. And then we got Glenna's. Glenna's is doing cool things. She's got Smokies on board, so she's going to be doing all the Smokies products, different chocolates and things. So go Jenny, or go Jenny's, go Glenna, go Glenna. I love supporting the women in the business. Um, and then I'm hearing all this other shit too, where people are not getting paid. I'm so annoyed. Like, somebody does a service, you pay them. Somebody buys your products, you pay them. Why is it so hard for this industry to pay people? Why is it so hard for us to just treat others like we want to be treated? Do you want to be owed $50,000? I sure as shit don't.
It's a cash flow thing. I mean, I think people are
But it's cheating other
spending,
people.
yeah, but they think that they just need to do this once and then they'll catch up and then they'll be wealthy. And that is what perhaps one of my biggest frustrations is everybody, I shouldn't say everybody. Many people go into this industry with the idea that they will struggle, they will sacrifice everything I mean, I've known multiple members of families to drain their retirement accounts,
Yes.
and it's all with the belief, the sincere belief that they will be like cartel kind of wealth within 6 months. And I gotta be honest, I don't see it happening. Not in a
No.
regulated market.
Not in a regulated market for sure. I mean, 280E squelches that right away. And so many people don't understand 280E. Like, oh my God.
I wouldn't even say it's 280E because they don't even really have that pressure till they filed that first annual tax return. It's really like all of the other stuff on the retail side anyway.
Well,
You know,
yeah. I mean, you got
paying the rent
cases you
and
got to
wages.
buy. You got to like get security guards. You got to get employees. You got to get, there's a lot of shit that goes into this.
Did you?
And
I think it was Tony Gallo on LinkedIn
LinkedIn,
said that somebody he was talking to wanted to do Ring cameras. They had just spent a bunch of money on Ring cameras for their dispensary. It's like, yeah, it's great.
great idea, pal. Clearly, you did not read the regs. Monitored security bank, I think, is the verbiage that's sort of used. Um, yeah, no, ring cameras aren't going to cut it, pal. Um, but yeah,
I
people
gotta
don't
say,
know.
I for an enforcement case that I had, the Ring camera gave great footage.
Did it?
It did. It was excellent, but that was just lucky. I mean, honestly, what happens lately is the first thing they do when they walk into a shop is they disable the cameras. And
Like, like the enforcement people disable the cameras? Why? That's kind of weird, don't you think? I mean, I mean, to me, I would want the cameras on because if one of the employees said that, oh, this cop threw me against the wall and like beat the shit out of me for no reason, I would kind of want that on the camera to dispute if I was either the good cop that's being blamed for something that didn't happen, or if I was the shop owner getting attacked by the bad cop. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
you said it.
wow, I did say it. Because that's some bullshit. I mean, it's sort of like these traffic stops when, people of color get stopped and freaking, not just people of color, but like, of course, we know the prevalence is far greater with people of color. Um, and they want to record the experience. Well, so often cops will like forbid that. And yet it's the only proof they have, right? Because conveniently, some cops will turn off their body cams or their dash
But
cams.
by the way, the taxpayers paid for.
By the way,
By the way,
just throwing it out there, peeps. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of controversy out there, peeps, and it's so important to be informed, get a good attorney, get people that are knowledgeable in the industry, because you need to understand what you're up against. And so many people don't. And they think it's just this panacea that, like you said, you're going to have cartel wealth in 6 months. And they don't get it because they've never operated in this legal market that requires so much more of a demand of cash flow and cash influx than what they're used to. You know, Sam's just not going to front you 2 pounds bud and just like, yes, when you sell it, you give them the dough. Like,
so wait, are you saying we can now sell weed at Sam's Club?
no.
Do I have to show my membership card?
Oh, wow. Well, look at that. It's already 9 o'clock. How did we get so
And
far
just
so
like that.
fast? Just
Okay.
like that. Boom. Between labs, between lawsuits, between legacy, between legal. between rats owning real estate now. Um, what a day it is here in New York State. And we appreciate those of you that contributed and became part of our journey tonight and every Sunday night. We appreciate your loyalty and those of you that, participate and let us know you're out there. So, as of what is today, the 22nd or 23rd?
23.
23rd. Where did June go? Shit, I'm still back in May, I think.
They say it's busting out all over.
Huh, interesting. So, good night and farewell from Paula and Nikki. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week. And hope your week goes blissful and great. And see you next week, friends. Goodbye for now. The Western New York Report.